The Hunchback of Notre Dame is Alan Menken at his peak. It is Alan's favorite of his scores, and I also think it's some of Stephen Schwartz's finest lyric work. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a deep dive into the score of Hunchback, looking at every single song, and we're gonna break down why each one works so well. If you're a songwriter, you can directly apply this knowledge to your own songwriting, and if you're not a songwriter, it'll give you a much better sense of how these things are put together. 5 elements we're gonna look at in each song: structure, melody, harmony, rhythm, and lyrics. Those are the 5 elements where prosody lies. Prosody is every element of the song working together to tell the same story. Let's look at the Bells of Notre Dame and talk about song structure. A lot of times I get asked the question, what comes first, music or lyrics? And the answer is, it depends. Sometimes that changes from song to song. Sometimes it changes from collaboration to collaboration. Each person you work with maybe approaches things a little bit differently. Now, I haven't spoken to Alan or Stephen about this song in particular, but having been a songwriter as long as I have been, I'm 98% sure I know how this went down. So here's what I think happened. Usually when you work with somebody, even when you're working alone on a song, the hook comes first. And by hook, I mean the lyric line that repeats. Right? It's also obviously paired with a melody when it's a song. So you want to find that hook first. So you get together in a room with somebody. So Alan and Stephen get in a room together and they go, we need to write the opening number for Hunchback of Notre Dame. What is our hook? What is the song title? And they decide Bells of Notre Dame, the Bells of Notre Dame, right? The bells are the sort of main character in the show. So that's what we're going to call the song. So then they have to decide, where does that hook fall? Does it fall at the beginning of a phrase? Does it fall at the end of a phrase? Now, much of musical theater is written in what's called AABA chorus format, okay? That is the structure that's used in a lot of musical theater songs. And let's face it, Disney movies are essentially little musicals. And that all started with Howard Ashman and Alan Menken and The Little Mermaid, and we can talk about that another time. But suffice it to say that AABA format is a really popular musical theater song structure to follow. And that is because it helps tell a story. Maybe in another video, I can talk about AABA song form and why it works so well to tell a story. But for now, just trust me, that's what we're going with. So here's how AABA works. You have a statement of an A, you restate that maybe slightly differently, then you have a B section which goes someplace different to give our ears a break and to develop the idea a little more, and then you restate the A, again, sometimes with a little bit of a change at the end. So keeping that in mind, first they come up with the hook, which is the Bells of Notre Dame. So then Alan comes up with a melody. So that's the first phrase, that's the first A. Then you restate that melodic theme. Goes up at the end, we'll talk about that later. So you have your A, then you restate the A. And then for the B section, you go someplace a little bit different. There's your B section, and then we restate the A. And then a restatement of the hook a little bit more definitively at the end. So they have to decide that the hook goes at the ends of the phrase. Bells of Notre Dame. So that's the first thing you decide. Where does that hook go? So each time you get to the end of an A section, you find that hook. Bells of Notre Dame. That's the B section. And then a restatement of that hook at the end. The Bells of Notre Dame. Okay, so now we have AABA. That's our AABA song form. Here's what that sounds like all together with the lyrics added. Morning in Paris, the city awakes to the bells of Notre Dame. The fisherman fishes, the baker man bakes to the bells of Notre Dame. To the big bells as loud as the thunder, to the little bells soft as a song. And some say the soul of the city's the toll of the bells. The bells of Notre Dame. Okay, then what do we get next? We get another statement of that AABA song form. Okay, so if you step back and take a 30,000 foot view of this entire song as a whole, we also sort of have this AABA song form coming into play, right? So at the microscopic level, we've got that first A line, the second A line, the B, and then back to the A. And then when you go out, that whole first AABA section becomes the whole big first A section. Then we get another one. Dark was the night when our tale was begun on the docks near Notre Dame. Little first A there. And then four frightened gypsies stood silently under the docks near Notre Dame. But a trap had been laid for the gypsies, and they gazed up in fear and alarm at a figure whose clutches were iron as much as the bells of Notre Dame. So we have the big first A section, which is a small AABA chorus. And we have the second big A section, which is another AABA chorus. And then, again, we have the hook of Bells of Notre Dame repeated at the end of each of those A sections. And now we have to go someplace different. So now we go to the B section, which is where we get the introduction to Judge Frollo, Claude Frollo. Okay, now here we go from 3/4 time to 4/4 time. So we have, not only do we change melodic material, but we change time signature too. So we're really in kind of this new place. Judge Claude Frollo longed to purge the world of vice and sin, and he saw corruption everywhere except within. So we have our little B section there. Now, you'll also notice that our melodic material there, da da dee dee da 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 dee dee da da dum. That's basically the bells theme with just some notes moved around a little bit. So we're taking that melodic idea from the main bells theme and we're just developing it a little bit. And that is a secret to good songwriting, is taking one idea and then developing that idea in a lot of different ways. Repetition and variation. Enough repetition to keep the audience from being confused, but enough variation to keep the audience engaged. So you'll remember that the bells theme is da-da-dum, da-da-dum. And this melody is Judge Claude Frollo longed to purge the world of vice and sin. It's the same notes. Da-da-dum, Judge Claude Frollo longed to purge. It's the same stuff. Then we get the big Latin section, which is sort of the furtherance of this B theme, I would say. So I would call this whole section like a big old B section. So we have those two A's, we have this big B section, which goes into Dies Irae, Dies Irae, Dies Irae, right? And that's called melodic sequencing, where we take that B da da dum, and we move it up a key, da 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 dum, and then da 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 dum. So we're sequencing that same melodic idea. So again, it's just developing the same melodic material over one section, okay? So if you're ever at a loss as to what to do next, take your melodic idea and just change it ever so slightly, or change the order of the notes a little bit. And so you just take that one idea and you develop it. It's a great way to get out of someplace if you're feeling stuck. Then coming out of that B section, we have a restatement of the A. So we have one A section, a big A section, we have another A section, so both of those are those AABA chorus things. Then we step away and we go to this B section for a while, which is the intro to Frollo, and it's the big Latin thing, and then we have a restatement of the A again. So it's A, A, B, A. And here's the next A. See there the innocent blood you have spilt on the steps of Notre Dame. Now you would add this child's blood to your guilt on the steps of Notre Dame. You can lie to yourself and your minions. You can claim that you haven't a qualm, but you never can run from or hide what you've done from the eyes, the very eyes of Notre Dame. So we have the restatement of that A, and then we go back to the B again for a little bit of a departure. And for one time in his life of power and control, Frollo felt a twinge of fear for his immortal soul. And there's that bells theme underneath it, right? Then we get a little bit of new music. This actually becomes the Out There theme later on, and Frollo sings this. Just so he's kept locked away where no one else can see. Again, that's just the bells theme. It's the same notes. Da-da-dum, da-da-dum. Just so he's kept locked away where no one else can see. It's just those same notes developed in a slightly different way. Even this foul creature may prove one day to be of use to me. And then we get another big statement of the A section. So we had that big A, the second big A, B section, restatement of the A, back to a little bit of the B with some new musical material, and then a restatement of the A section. Now here is a riddle to guess if you can sing the bells of Notre Dame. Who is the monster and who is the man? Sing the bells, 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 bells of Notre Dame. And then a big statement of the theme at the end in major this time instead of minor, which it was at the beginning. We'll talk about that later. There's your song structure. We're going to touch on melody next. All right, let's talk melody. So here's the important thing. We have the bells theme, right, which is this. That's the minor version of the bells theme. There's also a major version of that bells theme, which goes like this. Okay, so we have a minor version, we have a major version. Within those notes, both the minor version and the major version, almost everything else in this show is some version of those mixture of notes. That's called melodic motivic development, as we talked about in the last section. Let's look at this very first melody that Chopin sings. Morning in Paris, the city awakes to the bells of Notre Dame. Here are those notes on the piano. Now, if you listen to the first note of each of those measures, bum, 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 bum. Okay? So we're already using bits and pieces of that major version of the bells theme to construct this melody that Chopin is singing. This is done so that the whole score sort of sounds like it all belongs together. Now, the next thing you'll notice is that the melody of the first A goes down at the end and the melody of the second A goes up at the end. Listen. Morning in Paris, the city awakes to the bells of Notre Dame. It goes down, and then the fisherman fishes, the baker man bakes to the bells of Notre Dame. Why? Why does the first one go down and the second one go up? He could have gone down for both of them. The second one could have been the fisherman fishes, the baker man bakes to the bells of Notre Dame. It could have been, and there's nothing wrong with that. So let me play this the way that maybe he could have written it, okay? So here's the first part's the same, and in the second part I'm gonna just slightly change the harmonic language and the direction of the melody, so you can hear what it would sound like if it was written sort of the same way. Morning in Paris, the city awakes to the bells of Notre Dame. The fisherman fishes, the baker man bakes to the bells of Notre Dame. Okay, he could have done that. Both melody lines go down. There's nothing wrong with that. But what happens is when the melody line goes up the second time, it's a difference in your brain. So your brain is immediately like, oh, that's something new and different. And also, it leads into the very next phrase, which is the B section of that AABA chorus. Listen to how it helps lead into the next melody. The fisherman fishes, the baker man bakes to the bells of Notre Dame. Da-da-dee-da-da-da. Right? It just sort of leads very nicely into that B section, which it wouldn't do so well if the melody went down again as it did in the first A. And the other important thing to note about how the melody works in these AABA choruses is that the very last time we hear the hook, the rhythm is elongated. We call that augmentation. We're augmenting a rhythm. And what that does is it really cements the importance of that hook in our minds. Also, the melody does something really cool. Bells of Notre Dame. They sound more like bells. Bong, 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 bong. Listen to what that sounds like. Here's the last A section of that first AABA chorus. And some say the soul of the city's the toll of the bells of Notre Dame. Cool, right? Next, we move on to the big B section. This is the Kyrie eleison and the introduction of Frollo's character. The Kyrie, which I made a mistake on one of my Instagram reels, I said it was Latin. It's actually Greek. Kyrie eleison is Greek. So the melody for that Kyrie eleison is taken straight out of the Catholic liturgy, the Roman Catholic liturgy. Kyrie eleison. Direct lift from Roman Catholic liturgy there. So we've got purposeful melodic intention there. And then, as I talked about in the structure section just prior to this, we get Judge Claude Frollo introduced to us using a variation of that bells theme. Judge Claude Frollo longed to purge the world of vice and sin. Ba-da-dum. Same thing, right? Just developed in a slightly different way. Melodic, motivic development. And we get another statement of that Kyrie eleison melody there. Judge Claude Frollo longed to purge the world of vice and sin. Kyrie eleison, right underneath that. Next, we go to the big dies irae section. And as I also mentioned briefly in the previous section when we talked about structure, this section uses melodic sequencing. That's where you take a melody in one key and you sequence it up throughout various keys. We start with D minor, we go to F minor, we go to A, then we go to C, and then finally E flat. So the whole time we're sequencing this melodic line up, and it's building drama as we increase in vocal register. So here is that sequence, starting in D, D, S, E, Re. Then we have F, D, S, E, La. Then we have Sol, Vet, Seclum in fa, vi, la. And then we have C, Quantus tremor est futurus. And then we have E flat. Quando iudex est futurus. Right? Up each time, increasing the drama as we increase in register. And then at the end of this B section, we have one more instance of melodic sequencing as we lead back into the bells theme. So we've got Sol, Vet, Seclum in fa, vi, la, da, 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 di, da, da, da. And then dies irae, dies illa. Right? So it's melodic sequencing, again, up to build drama as we segue back into that bells theme. Sol, Vet, Seclum in fa, vi, la, dies irae, dies illa. Da, da, da. So good, it's so satisfying. Now coming out of that, we go back to the A section for the Archdeacon's chorus, which is virtually the same as the previous ones. And then we go back to another taste of the B section, where Clopin again sings about Frollo using that same da-da-dee-da-da-da-da, that version of the bells theme, which is tied now to Frollo's character. And for one time in his life of power and control, Frollo felt a twinge of fear for his immortal soul. Okay? So again, melodic intention there. We're writing in that melody specifically because we're talking about Frollo. Now here's an interesting fact that you may or may not know. Normally, in a movie or in a show where there are songs involved, like a lot of songs, usually the opening number is the very last thing to be finished. Why do you think that might be? Well, if you think about the musical numbers that you know that open a show, generally speaking, a lot of the musical material from later on in the show or from later on in the film is used in that opening number. So it makes sense that a lot of those other songs need to be written first so that the composer and the lyricist or the songwriter, if it's only one person, can decide which pieces of those numbers are going to be included in that opening number. So while they may have written, Alan and Stephen may have written the majority of this number before they wrote anything else, because of course they have to come up with that, that bell theme. Alan has to come up with that bells theme. Right? That's the signature sound of the whole show. There are pieces in here that come from other places. For example, this piece that Frollo sings. Just so he's kept locked away where no one else can see. That's taken from Out There, right? And we have the intro to that, which is... which you may recall from the beginning of Out There is... the world is cruel, the world is wicked, right? And that's something that they probably didn't write when they had first started writing this opening number. So they had to write that song first before then going back into the opening number and going, we want to hearken to that number here. Right? So that's something that probably got added a little bit later on into this opening number. And that's because we want to develop things melodically and we want to foreshadow things that are going to happen melodically. It ties the whole thing together. Now, when we have the final statement of the final AABA chorus at the end here, we have some melodic adjustments that are made. It's the last time we're hearing this, so we need to alter it a little bit to make it feel more final. So you'll notice the first A is the same. Now here is a riddle to guess if you can sing the bells of Notre Dame. And then we have a change. Who is the monster and who is the man? Different melodic material there, right? We haven't heard that before. And it's something that clues us into the fact that we're getting close to the end here, right? We're moving up in register. It's a melody we haven't heard yet, so something is happening here. And then we get the big build up to the end. Sing the bells, 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 bells. comes in. It's this great, glorious moment at the end, okay? So that's a good reason why we would change a melody at the end, is so we can really dig into that hook and make the ending really jump off the page, jump off the screen, jump off the stage, and into our ears and our faces. That's melody. We're gonna talk harmony next. It's time to talk about harmony. There is so much going on here. So we're gonna go section by section and really unpack what's going on here in this song harmonically. So let's look first at the bells theme. Let's figure out what's going on here. We have this pedal D going on, this really bass heavy D, and that goes through the whole thing. So here's what's going on top of that, and we're gonna break it down. So here it is. That section and break that down. So you'll notice on the top is the melody. Da-da-dum, da-da-dum, da-da-da-da-da-dum. There's your melody. But what's going on right underneath that? In between that pedal D and the melody, there's an internal line, and it's moving in contrary motion to the melody. So when you learn, and you're a composition major, for example, and you're in school and you're learning how to write music, and you learn how to write in the time period that this particular story is set in, you learn a lot about writing in contrary motion. That was like the gold standard of the time, where you'd have one voice moving in one direction and another voice counter to that would move in another direction. And that is supposed to create a better sound than moving in what we call parallel motion. So for example, parallel motion would be notes moving like this. Both notes are moving in the same direction. Both voices moving in the same direction. Contrary motion is when you have voices doing the opposite. So you have like one's moving down and the other one's moving up. So in this theme, whatever note is moving in one direction, the note on the bottom is moving in the opposite direction. So we have this melody line, da-da-dum, da-da-dum, da-da-da-da-da-dum, and the voice underneath that is going da-da-dum, da-da-dum, da-da-da-da-da-dum. So you have both notes moving in opposite direction, contrary motion. Listen to those two voices together. It's so cool. It's very well written. And you could, I guess if you wanted to like really super analyze that, I mean, maybe one could represent Frollo and one represents Quasi, and they're both moving in opposite directions. I don't know. I mean, that's reading maybe a little too much into it, but it's really good writing. It's really good contrary motion writing, and it really adds some wonderful dissonance. Alan could have written it this way. I mean, it's not as exciting, but he could have. But no, we have this dissonance in there, this glorious, glorious dissonance. And then we have a major chord there, which is unusual, right? You'd think it would end on that D minor chord, but it doesn't. It ends on this B flat chord in first inversion, which is a major chord, but it's in first inversion, so it feels like a little off balance. Out and we get this theme, which leads us into Chopin's verse. Morning in Paris, the city awakes. Right? There we go. So that's the bells theme. Now let's move on to the next section, which we just started, Chopin's verse. Okay? We have this D minor chord to this C7 with an E in the bass to an F, and then we get this interesting chord that's not in the key, this B flat minor chord with a D flat in the bass, and it's on the word awakes. The city awakes. And we get this chord that kind of wakes you up a little bit, right? It's not what you expect to hear. Morning in Paris, the city awakes. Woo, to the bells of Notre. Now, what's going on in these chords? They're so juicy. Okay, so we have this after this B flat minor chord with a D flat in the bass, we go to this F with a C in the bass, bells of, and then we get this A7 sharp 5 chord. All right, so it's not enough that we get this A7. We have to add this F natural in there, which just gives it this great like tension and It's delicious. It's really a delicious quality to it. The cool thing there is if we're following this internal harmony line that's going on, sort of in the bass accompaniment, we've got morning in so we've got this A. You can see it here if you look at the sheet music. We've got this A, G, F, F, or A, G, A, depending on how you're looking at it. And it's called good voice leading. We want the voices to lead in a natural way. So we've got, if that G wasn't there, if we didn't have this bells of Notre Dame, if we didn't have that G there, it would sound like this. The bells of Notre Dame, da, 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 which is fine. But when you add that G in there, bells of Notre Dame, it pulls down to that F. It's such a, it's so delicious. Da, 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 da. The fisherman fishes, the baker man bakes to the bells of Notre Dame. Oh, that C7, it's really a C13. You get that A in there, crunchy and just, so tasty. Bells of Notre Dame. And then I love this. We get this internal line here, this F, E, E flat, da, 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 which helps that harmonic line lead into the next phrase so beautifully. Notre Dame, da, 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 da. All right, if we didn't have that F, E to E flat, we'd have bells of Notre Dame to the big bells as loud, which is fine. It's fine, but it's not nearly as good as Notre Dame to the big bells as loud as the thunder. It's just those little details when you're making harmonic choices in the way that you write things, those little details can go a really, really long way to changing the feel of something. That wouldn't be bad if you wrote it the other way. It's just not as good as if you do it the better way. Then we have this phrase, to the big bells as loud as the thunder, to the little bells soft as a psalm. And on psalm, we get this suspension chord, this A suspension, 4-3 suspension, okay? And it's great that happens on the word psalm because I think we associate church music with this sort of, that sounded like Suddenly Seymour. Anyway, so little bells soft as a song. Little bells soft as a song. It's great prosody there. The music and the lyrics supporting one another in that moment, telling the same story. Some say the soul of the city's the toll of the bells. And on the toll of the bells, the bass line does this. Bum, 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 bum. Almost like bass bells chiming. Bum, 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 bum. While the bottom note of the right hand goes da, da, da. Again, voice leading. We're moving through the phrase, okay? And when you put those two things together, we get this. With that little dissonance at the end, it almost sounds like bells chiming. This, some say the soul of the city's the toll of the bells. Last chord, we get an open fifth, a D5, open fifth. There's no third in there, which means it could be a minor third or it could be a major third, but you don't really know what it is. And a lot of times in music around this time period, church music or liturgical music was written with a lot of open fifths. It was a popular thing, especially in like Gregorian chant. You get a lot of that sort of open fifth sound. That's what we're sort of hearkening back to with those open fifths. Open fifths. Okay? Now, moving into the Kyrie eleison section and the intro to Frollo's section. Now, we've got this open fifth on Kyrie eleison. Kyrie eleison. Hearkening back to that open fifth sound of the church. Kyrie eleison. about Frollo, now we get these kind of lush chords that harken back to that bells theme. Da-da-dum. Judge Claude Frollo longed to purge the world of vice and sin. And then Kyrie eleison again, open fifths. And he saw corruption everywhere except within. And again, we get these open fifths, right? Open fifth, open fifth, open fifth. Now, as we go into the dies irae section, the dies iraes are really just takes on the bell theme. Ba-da-dum, dee-da-dum, dies irae, ba-da-dum. It's just another development of that bells theme. And in the accompaniment, you can hear that. Dies irae. It sounds very much like, it's that same idea. Dies irae, dies ila. Right? It's that same idea. As we come out of this dies irae section, we've got sort of harkening back to the bells theme, which then leads us back into the bells theme. So the solvet seclum in fa villa, we got this pedal E going on here, which then switches to a pedal A, bum, 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 bum. So on top of that, we have this. Archdeacon who sings now. See that the innocent blood you have spilt. And again, we go back to that same harmonic language we had at the beginning. Now, it's interesting, in Frollo's section, where Frollo actually sings for the first time, we have this music that sets it up, which is also the music that sets him up for the beginning of Out There. The world is cruel, the world is wicked. And it's this beautifully arpeggiated little thing that goes like this. It's very beautiful for Frollo, right? Like it's like his conscience or something. There's something like some part of him that maybe used to be good or used to be uncorrupted, and you can sort of hear that in the way that harmonic and melodic passage goes. And then just so he's kept locked away where no one else can see. And we have the bell theme under here, which is, I guess, maybe it's Frollo's conscience. Maybe that bells theme, that religious theme or something is his conscience, or I don't know, but it's really powerful. Whatever it is, it's really powerful. Where no one else can see the bell tower, perhaps, and who knows, our Lord works in mysterious ways. B-flat major chord. Even this foul creature may yet prove one day to be. And we get that G sharp in there, which is just like, whoo-hoo, now something's off. Because he could have written it like this. Even this foul creature may yet prove one day to be of use to me. But he doesn't. Alan writes a G sharp in the accompaniment there. Even this foul creature may yet prove one day to be of use to me. Which is really kind of sadistic and dark and twisted. Kind of like Frollo. Now, one of my favorite things going into the ending here, we have this line, who is the monster and who is the man? And in the orchestration, in that harmony, we get this run of eighth notes. You can see it here. I'll play it for you in a second. This run of eighth notes, up the bass clef, up into the treble clef, and then it keeps building higher and higher and higher and higher until we get to the end. So here's kind of what that sounds like, just in the accompaniment. Who is the monster and who is the major statement in a major key of that bells theme at the very end. But it's a great way to build up to that final ending there. Here's the final statement of that bells theme in major. should comment below. Why do you think we end in major instead of minor at the end of the song? I would love to know your thoughts. We're going to talk about rhythm next. All right, let's talk about rhythm. So rhythm does a couple of things. Rhythm can set us in place and time. It can create the kind of energy that we want in a piece or mood. So we have the Boles theme, that's in 4/4 time. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that just is sort of our big grand statement of the main theme of the show or the movie or whatever. And then very quickly after that, we go into 3/4 time for Chopin's verse. Morning in Paris, da dee da da, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Now this sets us in place and time. A lot of traditional French music is set in 3/4. It has sort of a playful feel to it, which I think is very appropriate for Chopin's character as he sort of guides us through the story here. So that's what that 3/4 section is doing. And that happens throughout the entirety of that first AABA chorus section. Now, the next time we have something cool that happens with rhythm is when the hook is stated at the end of those A sections in that AABA chorus theme, the bells of Notre Dame. The rhythm there slows down, right? But before that, it's bells of Notre Dame. And at the end of those AABA sections, it's bells of Notre Dame. So we slow that, we augment that rhythm. Bum, 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 which adds greater emphasis to that hook and makes it really stand out. Now in the next AABA chorus section, we have something going on in the accompaniment that's different from what happened in the last section. So listen to this. Dark was the night when our tale was begun on the docks near Notre Dame. You hear that? Da 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 da. That rhythm gives us a sense of movement or motion into the next phrase. Docks near Notre Dame, for frightened, right? And that gives us that little motion into the next thing. And that happens again in the next phrase. For frightened gypsies slid silently under the docks near Notre Dame. So we have that sort of eighth note rhythm, which again gives us that motion into the next phrase. And then again at the end of this chorus section, we have, again, that augmented rhythm for the hook. The bells of Notre Dame. That brings us into that Kyrie eleison section and the intro to Dutch Claude Frollo. So now going into Frollo's section, we segue from 3/4 time to 4/4 time. So it's a change in time signature, a change in rhythm, which brings us to a new place. This time signature change, this rhythmic change, signals a new section of the song. Dutch Claude Frollo, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And the next rhythmic change that we have is going into the dies irae section. Now on the right hand of the piano, we have this thing going on. That eighth note motif, which feels energized. So that's another thing that rhythm can do, is it gives us a sense of energy. Carries on through the rest of this dies irae section, feels really energized. And then as we get to the end of that dies irae section, the rhythm slows down, we lose those eighth notes as we transition back into the bells theme. So let's say plum in favela, dies irae, dies irae. And then back into the bells theme we go. Now I don't have much else to say about rhythm in this song. I think it's pretty straightforward for the most part, but it is important as you're writing to make sure you're thinking about rhythm and how the rhythm helps set the audience in time and place and how it creates a sense of energy. In the last section, we're going to talk about lyrics. Finally, we're going to talk about lyrics, one of my favorite things to talk about, especially in this song, in this show, this film. I think it's some of Stephen Schwartz's absolute finest lyric work, and the lyrics are so exquisitely and carefully crafted. So there are a couple of things that we have to mention about lyrics first. So when it comes to musical theater, and as I said before, these Disney movies are basically musicals. And there's a convention in the musical theater art form that when it comes to rhyming words, we tend to use perfect or exact rhymes only. Now, what do I mean by that? A perfect rhyme or an exact rhyme is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. There are two words that rhyme exactly, like moon and June, or soul and toll, which you'll hear in this song, okay? We don't really use slant rhymes that much in musical theater for a very specific reason. As an audience is listening to and watching a show or a film, things are going by pretty quickly, and our brains are only able to capture so much information. And so by using exact and perfect rhymes, only exact and perfect rhymes are the same, it's the same thing. Some call them exact, some call them perfect. But the reason why we use, I'm gonna just call them perfect because that's what I'm used to. The reason why we use perfect rhymes usually only is because it's easier for the audience to be guided through the story of the song with perfect rhymes. They land better on the ear, they serve as a better guide for our ears than slant rhymes. In the pop music tradition, it's a different story. Pop songs are meant to be listened to over and over again on the radio, and so there have been different conventions developed for pop music than for musical theater. Now, of course, there are exceptions to this rule. You will find slant rhymes in some musicals, especially in contemporary musicals, but I would bet, and you can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, I would bet that if you look through every single lyric of The Hunchback of Notre Dame, I would be very surprised if you even found one rhyme that wasn't a perfect rhyme or an exact rhyme. Stephen Schwartz is very, very careful about that kind of thing. So we're going to start at the beginning here. Morning in Paris, the city awakes to the bells of Notre Dame. Now, if you are a songwriting team like Menken and Schwartz, Alan and Stephen here, the music, as I said before, the music tends to come after they find the hook. So the hook is the bells of Notre Dame. And then we find where we want to place that hook at the beginning of a phrase, at the end of the phrase, wherever it may be. So now Alan writes this melody. So they've determined now that the hook goes at the end of that phrase. The bells of Notre Dame. So now Stephen's job is to find lyrics to hang on those notes. How do you do that? Well, you gotta listen to the melody. Of Notre Dame. Bells of Notre Dame. And you have to listen for where those signposts are. Where are those notes that you want to hang your rhyming words on? Because your rhyming words are the words that are going to guide the listener's ear through the story. So it's very important to find the places where those rhyming words will hang. And so Stephen found this. So we've got dun, 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 dun. The melody points to that note. Dun, 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 of Notre Dame. Bells of Notre Dame. So that's where the rhyming words are going to go. So we've got morning in Paris, the city awakes to the bells of Notre Dame. Now we need a word that rhymes with wakes. The fisherman fishes, the baker man bakes to the bells of Notre Dame. Right? So that clues our ears in to the way that the story flows by how we use those rhyming words and where we put them. Morning in Paris, the city awakes to the bells of Notre Dame. The fisherman fishes, the baker man bakes to the bells of Notre Dame. Do you see how well that guides your ear through the phrase? So good. Another thing Stephen Schwartz is very, very good at, and I think he likes to do a lot, is alliteration. So we're going to find moments in this song and all throughout the score where he uses alliteration. And by alliteration, I mean these similar consonant sounds back to back. Okay? Now, the next bit we have, to the big bells as loud as the thunder, to the little bells soft as a psalm. Here's a great place for alliteration, and not only alliteration, but using consonant sounds for prosody, making sure that the consonant sounds that you're using are helping to tell the story that you're trying to tell. So we have big bells, two big B sounds, right, in a row. To the big bells as loud as the thunder, and we have the word thunder with that TH right at the beginning, which really gives it this plosive sound, right? Big bells as loud as the thunder, and then to the little bells soft as a psalm, and by using that S sound, we get that alliteration. Not only do we get the alliteration, but we get the prosody, soft as a psalm. The words sound like what they mean, soft as a psalm. And then we get this great line, some say the soul of the city's the toll of the bells. All that wonderful, glorious alliteration. And not only that, but we have this internal rhyme in this section, which then also comes back in each of these same subsequent sections. Some say the soul of the city's the toll of the bells. Soul of and toll of. Some say the soul of the city's the toll of the bells. The bells of Notre Dame. Fantastic lyric writing. Now, let's move to the next section. We've got dark was the night when our tale was begun on the docks near Notre Dame. 4 frightened gypsies slid silently under the docks near Notre Dame. So we have begun and in that same spot where the wakes and the bakes was before. Now we've got begun and under, okay? Dark was the night when our tale was begun on the docks near Notre Dame. 4 frightened gypsies slid silently under the docks near Notre Dame. Not only that, but we have slid silently. Again, there's that wonderful alliteration that Stephen Schwartz loves to use. Another thing that I didn't mention before, but it's really important, is we've got to rhyme. We always have to rhyme the word dom, right? Because that's at the end of the chorus, so we have to rhyme that. The first instance of that was soft as a psalm. And then we've got here, but a trap had been laid for the gypsies, and they gazed up in fear and alarm. Now, here's the interesting thing. If you say this with an American accent, alarm and dom do not rhyme. If you say psalm and dom, that's not a perfect rhyme either. Those are both slant rhymes. But when you say them in the dialect of the character singing in the song, they do rhyme. They are perfect rhymes. So that's another thing to take into account when you're writing lyrics, is the dialect that's being sung with while those words are being sung, right? Because that changes the pronunciation and sometimes can change something that may not be a perfect rhyme in an American accent into something that is a perfect rhyme in a different kind of accent. So when we have psalm and dom, that rhymes. And we have gazed up in fear and alarm and dom, that rhymes. When you say that in like a British dialect, it rhymes. And they gazed up in fear and alarm at a figure whose clutches were iron as much as the bells. Again, and there we have a great internal rhyme. A figure whose clutches were iron as much as the bells. Same spot that we had so love and to love before. Now we have clutches, much as. Figure whose clutches were iron as much as the bells of Notre Dame. And of course, Stephen Schwartz did not write the Kyrie eleison. That is something that existed already, so we don't have to go too much into that. And then we have Frollo's section. Judge Claude Frollo longed to purge the world of vice and sin. There's our rhyming word, the world of vice and sin. And then we have, and he saw corruption everywhere except within. Those are really important words, sin and within. So not only do you have to find the place where those rhymes go, but you have to make sure that the words that you're using as your rhyming words are words that are really integral and important to understanding the story. He longed to purge the world of vice and sin, and he saw corruption everywhere except within. So important. Great word choice. Awesome rhyme. Fantastic. Then we have the Dies Irae section, which of course already existed. That's the Dies Irae from the liturgy, so we don't need to go into that. Coming out of that, we have the archdeacon's line, okay? Now, see if you notice a pattern of where the rhymes occur. See there the innocent blood you have spilt on the steps of Notre Dame. Now you would add this child's blood to your guilt on the steps of Notre Dame. You can lie to yourself and your minions. You can claim that you haven't a qualm, but you never can run from or hide what you've done from the eyes, the very eyes of Notre Dame. It's very important to note that the rhymes occur in the same place every time. They occur in the same place every time. Song structure, where we put things, is very important because the audience then has an expectation. It's a subconscious expectation. They don't necessarily know they're expecting it, but they're expecting those rhymes to land in the same place, and that helps their understanding of the story and their ability to follow the story. Okay, so we've got, see there the innocent blood you have spilt on the steps of Notre Dame. Now you would add this child's blood to your guilt on the steps of Notre Dame. You can lie to yourself and your minions, and here's another great alliteration. You can claim that you haven't a qualm, love it, but you never can run from or hide what you've done from the eyes, the very eyes of Notre Dame. So good. And I love that we changed the ending of that just a little bit, so it's not the bells of Notre Dame now. This time it's the eyes of Notre Dame. The very eyes of Notre Dame. So we get something a little new there. Fantastic, fantastic. And then again, we have this Frollo section. And for one time in his life of power and control, very important word, it's also a rhyming word here. Frollo felt a twinge of fear for his immortal soul. Places where you put those rhyming words and the choice of those rhyming words are so important to telling the story in a meaningful and easy to follow way. Okay, and then we have Frollo's little bit here that comes from out there. Just so he's kept locked away where no one else can see. There's your rhyming word, right? And then we get, even this foul creature may yet prove one day to be C and B, and then of use to me. We have a triple rhyme there. Just so he's kept locked away where no one else can see, even this foul creature may yet prove one day to be of use to me. Triple rhyme there. Love it. Okay, now we get to the ending of the song. And now we've got to kind of sum up. What is this whole show about? What are we really singing about here? How do we sum this up at the end? Now, here is a riddle to guess if you can sing the bells of Notre Dame. Who is the monster and who is the man? My guess, just having been somebody who's been writing songs for a very, very long time, is that Schwartz knew that he wanted the line, who is the monster and who is the man? I mean, what a great line. Who is the monster and who is the man? But then you need a line, you need something to rhyme with the word man, so you can get into that, right? So then you had to go back to the previous line and go, what can I do here in order to get that line that I really want, which is who is the monster and who is the man? Well, that's a riddle, I guess, right? So then here's a riddle. What rhymes with man? Plan, stand. I'm not gonna use stand. Can, okay, can. A riddle. Here's a riddle to guess if you can, right? And then that's how that line kind of comes about. And now he gets the line he really wants, which is who is the monster and who is the man, and he has a great way of getting into it with this whole idea of a riddle. Now here is a riddle to guess if you can, sing the bells of Notre Dame. Who is the monster and who is the man? Sing the bells, 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 bells. And I love that we're just using the word bells here, and it sounds like bells. Bells, 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 bells. And then a final statement of the last one. Bells of Notre Dame. So incredibly good. It is so good. These lyrics are so intricately crafted. It's some of his finest work. So when you write lyrics, you got to make sure that you're thinking about where those rhymes go, what words you're using to rhyme, and if you're writing a musical, they should really be perfect rhymes because they help guide the listener's ear in a very powerful way. All right, that's the lyrics to the Bells of Notre Dame. That concludes our video on the Bells of Notre Dame. Stay tuned for the next song in the Hunchback of Notre Dame. I can't wait. I will see you on the next one. That's the NT.